Chapter 59 Geomancy. Carousor, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Your last letter has really put me up a gum tree. I do not see how I can write you an account of geomancy. At first sight, it looks as if all I could do was to refer you to the official textbook of that sublime and difficult art. You will find it in the Equinox, Volume 1, Number 2. The first thing to remember about geomancy is that although the various intelligences are attributed to the 12 signs of the zodiac, they all appertain to the element of earth. Anyone, therefore, who has got in his nativity an earthy sign rising, or the sun in an earthy sign, or a good proportion of planets in an earthy sign, is much more likely to find geomancy attractive than any one of the principal features of whose horoscope are devoted to other elements, especially air, which, of course, is the enemy of earth. Now, these remarks apply, of course, very much to the type of question that is likely to be within the grasp of the geomantic intelligences. That must certainly be considered as well as the natural faculty of the practitioner to master the art. I ought, of course, to emphasize that I am just the worst person in the habitable globe that you could have asked about this matter, as my rising sign and my planets are all in fire, air, or water, except Neptune, which, as astrology teaches, refers not so much to the native as to the period of life. There is, however, a certain meager harvest to be gained from my experience. I should like to tell you what happened to such a man. A resident of Johannesburg and singularly gifted with the power of getting physical results to take place as a result of magical experiments. This man was as strongly attracted to geomancy as I was repelled, and I do not know that it would be fair for me to claim that I have been of any special use to him, though he was always kind enough to say so. When I pointed out that the answers to geomantic questions were so vague and indeterminate, he had already devised a method whereby this difficulty, which he admitted as existing, could be overcome. It is, of course, of the very first importance in geomancy to frame your questions accurately, for the intelligences serving the art delight in tricksome gambles. If there is a possibility of assigning a double meaning to the question, you can bank on them finding it and deceiving you. But as to further difficulty about their vagueness, what he did was to arrange a series of questions, narrowing the issues step by step until he had succeeded in obtaining a precise instruction which would resolve his original difficulty. I do think, as a matter of fact, that I was able to help to some extent on the purely theoretical side of the art, and he went back to South Africa feeling himself fully equipped to deal with any problem that might arise. At that time, we were particularly anxious to wind up the first volume of The Equinox with the number 10, which should be a really massive contribution to magical thought. That meant a very considerable increase in the cost of production. All this my disciple, of course, knew, and on arriving in Johannesburg, he said to himself, "Well, here I am in a part of the world where the earth teems with gold and diamonds. I will procure the necessary funds for the equinox and various other financial necessities of the work by geomantic divination. Now, then, he thought, in and about Johannesburg, we have both gold and diamonds. This is exactly the chance for these tricky earth spirits to take advantage of the ambiguity. I will therefore frame the question as to cover both sources of riches. I will not specify gold or diamonds. I will say simply mineral wealth." The answers to his series of questions indicated that he was to go out of the city where he would find a deposit. The next questions in his series were directed to finding the direction in which he should start his exploration. That was easy. The next question was the distance involved, and he could think of no way of framing questions which would inform him on that very important point. He got at it indirectly, however, by asking as to his means of transport, and as to that answer was quite clear and unmistakable. He was to use a horse. Well, he had a bow or pony, and the next morning he set forth with provisions for a day's journey. On and on he went and found no geological indication of any mineral wealth. Presently, he began to get tired and thought it was a little late. He could see in every direction across the veldt, and there was nothing at all. A mile or so in front of him, however, was a row of small copses. He said, I may as well go on and get a view from the top. This he did, and there was still no geological pointer. It struck him, however, that he was getting short of water, and just below on the far side of the kopje were a number of apparently shallow pools. I will fill my skin and give my horse a drink and get home feeling like a fool. But when he got to the water, his horse turned sharply aside and refused to drink. At that, he dismounted and put his finger in the water to test it. He had struck one of the most important deposits of alkali in South Africa. Mineral wealth indeed. He went home rejoicing and took the necessary steps to protect his find. In the course of the formalities, he found it necessary to come home to London, which he did, and he told me the whole story. Unfortunately, we end with an anticlimax. The negotiations went wrong, and the property was stolen from under his nose by one of the big alkali firms. However, it was a good mark for geomancy. I am afraid that all this is a digression. As I indicated above, what you want to know is to be found in the official instruction on the subject in the Equinox. Now, far be it from me to cast any doubt on any official instruction, but I cannot help saying that in this particular instance, it does not give very full details, and I think you would be well advised to investigate the whole subject afresh, basing your inquiry on the general principles of the science. All systems of divinations which have any claim to be reasonable are based upon a map of the universe, or at least the solar system. And 16 is really a rather limited number of units to manipulate. However, if you are the type of person who has a natural bent towards this particular art, you will be able to develop it on your own lines, guided by your own experience. Love is the law. Love under will. Yours fraternally.